Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, I'm Anthony Lamb from Maul.
And Anthony, how would you describe the musical Maul?
Maul kind of birthed out of a music scene that had very much like metal and hardcore kind of separated, I would say, and we kind of met in that middle. You know what I mean? We're kind of an amalgam of, I like to think of all genres of metal. We kind of get categorized as death metal a lot, but I mean, as far as our sound, we try to keep things tenacious. We try to keep it kind of try to keep a spark in our riffs, if you will, before that spark kind of fades. And then we also aren't afraid to just kind of vibe it out and see where the song goes. You know what I mean? We've kind of let go of all the I don't know, chains of like what you should do or shouldn't do when you're writing a song. We still very much jam out what we do, and what we get is what we get.
It, do you feel that Maul is something of a crossover band? Do you feel like you take equally from both the hardcore scene and the metal scenes, or do you feel like you guys are still very much in the death metal realm?
Yeah, I definitely come from more of the metal side. Just from my background, I didn't really start getting into hardcore music till like my later 20s, actually. Kind of when I moved to the Fargo area, because Fargo had so many great punk bands, so many good hardcore bands, and there was a lot of good hardcore bands like touring through here, that I was just fortunate to see. And then that's kind of just what started it. Is I It's funny because, like, yeah, when I first started listening to like heavy music, I was one of those guys that was like, oh man, punk music is so dumb and it's boring and blah blah blah. I was like a metal elitist, and now it's like I listen to everything. You know what I mean? I feel like some bands, like I said, kind of have that spark. They kind of have that that kind of grabs your attention and keeps it. And then some bands are, they're just still finding their groove, if you will.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm a dirtbag Hesher who grew up on Maiden and Priest and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
Megadeth, all that good stuff. And but I also discovered hardcore in high school, and I
Mm-hmm.
definitely remember the period from where, hardcore kids were very, um, very snobby and
Yeah.
pretty dismissive of metal, and then all of them
Yeah.
started down tuning, and then adding double kick drumming, and then learning
Yep,
Slayer
yep.
riffs,
And
and
I feel like part of that, what sorry to cut you off, Adrian, but
no,
I
no, no,
feel
no
like part
worries.
of that is with the advent of like computers becoming more available for people to record. Honestly, I feel like when people start recording guitars and recording drums, it kind of starts leading more to that heavier, fuller tone. You know what I mean? So go back to what you were saying.
No, I mean it was just funny just because, going from like a metalhead who got, made fun of for, you know, Morbid Angel or whatever I was listening to at the time, to
Yeah.
suddenly like, all the hardcore kids were really into like Slayer and Cradle of Filth and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Entombed, like once one hardcore kid got into Entombed, they all got into it. Um, uh, so tell me about Maul. What brought you guys together? I think what you said was that you weren't originally from the Fargo area.
So Garrett, Robbie, and I are all from the White Earth Reservation. We all kind of grew up together. And Garrett and I had a band before them all, kind of like, I don't know, maybe 6 years before them all. I don't really remember. It was back kind of when I was senior high school, freshman, and college period. And that was kind of out of Bemidji, Minnesota. We were kind of based out of, but I mean, we kind of played all over like Minnesota, some parts of North Dakota. We didn't, Western North Dakota has never really had like a big music scene. I feel like Minot or Bismarck somewhat now. Actually, it's starting to grow again, which is nice. But back in the day, man, it was like, yeah, it was pretty rare you had a show in Bismarck that was like banging. I don't know. But yeah, like pretty much Garrett moved to Fargo first, and then there was always this joke of like, once I moved to Fargo, we were going to start a band, and we came up with the name Maul before Maul was even like a band. You know what I mean? Actually, we used to just like text each other random band names, and we'd be like, ah, no, or that's taken. You know what I mean? Like there was one time I actually went to Garrett's. this is how I discovered Jabalba. I was like a freshman in college, and I go up to Garrett. I was like, "Bro, I have the best band name, Jabalba." He's like, "Already a band, been a band for a long time." And I mean, I love them so much. They're actually like a bit. They were, you know, a huge influence of like the early Maul. It was that's exactly kind of riff wise, like tonality wise. It was a little bit more metal than I don't know. I wanted that like dirtier tone, which I feel like we've kind of slowly gotten dirtier with everything we release, but it's still pretty much, I don't know, like a thick metal tone, if you will. But
And you worked with Brian before, right?
sorry, what's that?
You worked with Brian from Jabalba before, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about
He
but I
contributed to
mean,
one of yeah. He contributed to one of your albums, right?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, I know I just write the riffs, man. You know, a lot of the other things kind of come together as far as like art and things like that. You know what I mean? But like, I love Brian. I last time we saw him, I was literally telling him, you know, I want like a solo on the net on LP3. So I mean, there might be something in the future too, but yeah.
Okay. So you had the band name Maul, and as you guys, as the other members came together, uh, how did the sound coalesce? How did you
Well,
guys
I mean,
gravitate towards what you guys are playing now?
well, it really started with it was literally just like Robbie and I kind of jamming in his bedroom, and he borrowed a friend of ours drum set, and he had never played drums like at all. Like he's played drums in another couple bands now. He's like filled in, but this is Maul is his first band, and the first, you know, we really grew musically as he grew with drumming. And the first, you know, if you listen to our first EP, it's pretty. It's you can kind of the tenacity is there, I still think, but you know those riffs are pretty simple. Like the drums are real simple, and that was the thing. Is I was like, you know, um, it's about being together. It's about being a wall of sound. You know what I mean? So it's like sometimes the riff doesn't need to be like this crazy intricate riff. It's about being together as a band, in my opinion, and that's kind of what makes the song feel right, I guess. It's hard to explain, but yeah. And Robbie didn't really listen to a lot of like a lot of metal when we started. You know what I mean? He kind of had some metal bands he listened to, but he definitely came more from like hip hop. Garrett and I are both big rap and hip hop fans, but it kind of just evolved from that, I guess, you know. And it's funny because like Robbie has taken like drum lessons and stuff, and his journey as a drummer is one that I love because it's. I always tell people, man, it's not too late. You could start learning an instrument today, dude. You know what I mean? 6 years from now, you don't know. You could be touring the U.S. Like
Yeah. I mean,
anything's possible.
that's honestly kind of amazing to me that like somebody who's never been in a band before or has never played drums before and are immediately, you know, thrown into like blast beats and
Yeah,
double bass drumming.
yeah. And I mean, he's definitely he put in. Robbie puts in a lot of work. Like you know, I feel like every drummer probably puts in a ton of work, but like, yeah, just very proud of him. And I mean, he's still getting better. We're all still getting better, like as you know, players, as musicians. I definitely come from like I went to school for music, so I definitely have like a little bit of a leg up. I don't really like know like theory, if you will. Oh, sorry, I have my little light show going, but
Nice.
I know enough theory to survive, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? I can speak the language, so to speak, but I'm not really out here like writing piano ballads by any means.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but yeah,
in terms of learning music, was it more on the performance side or did you also learn like composition and stuff like that? Like the theory
yeah,
in that
both.
sense?
So
Yeah.
both. Yeah. So when I went to Bemidji State University to be a choir teacher, actually. So my degree was music with a vocal emphasis and a teaching licensure or whatever. But I only did about like half my schooling before I dropped out. I had a job that was paying me more than being a teacher would have, you know what I mean? So kind of just went the career path instead of the teaching path. But um, so for me, it's very vocal centered, but I did take composition. It was like my secondary. So, you know, I did learn a lot about different instruments. I learned a lot about drums and percussion, about singing in other languages, shit like that. Like, And some of it I don't use at all, but I'd be lying if I said that some of that knowledge definitely transitions to what we do and like how we write. You know what I mean? And just being able to get the feel for what's right, what's wrong, where to trim fat on a song, or where the song might need a little layering, maybe a harmony or something to spice it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So are songs still coming together the way they did when you guys first started? Is it still you and Robbie together jamming stuff out?
Mainly, yeah. So, I mean, Al definitely helps write as well. Our other guitarist, we actually have three guitarists now. Josh is more of a kind of like a live guitarist. He did write a little bit on the new album that we're going to be releasing. And like on the video, Spontaneous Stigmata, he's doing that like wailing guitar thing. That was one of those things I told him. I was like, yeah, I just kind of want dive bombs, but I was like, I want it to sound like wailing, like kind of like what you sound effects you would hear in like a horror movie almost. You know what I mean? And yeah, I love what he ended up doing. But Spontaneous was one of those songs where I definitely had like a vision of what I wanted it to be like. A lot of songs will start with like maybe I come to practice with a couple riffs, and then we'll start there, and then we just kind of organically jam more riffs. Sometimes like Al or I will have like a minute that we kind of like wrote, you know what I mean, two or three riffs that we know are going to be either like a riff that's coming back again, like as like a chorus, if you will, or just like I don't know, a riff that we know is going to be in a song. You know what I mean? Eventually, the riff bank, we always call it.
Right.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it is still very much jammed out.
okay. I'm curious if your background's learning composition in school, uh, uh, how that affects your approach to songwriting. Like it sounds like you guys are still very organic in the way that you come up with riffs and things like that. But do you lean on that background at all when you're arranging?
A little bit. I mean, me personally, I like progressive music. I don't really like when riffs are repeated. Um, you know what I mean? And it's funny because like there is that kind of classic song structure when it comes to like rock and roll or pop or whatever, the verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. And I think we maybe have like maybe one song that's close to that structure. I've always been like, I feel like as a metal or hardcore band, you have to be anti that. You know what I mean? You have to be the other dichotomy of like, hey, this is different. This is not the regular box bullshit. And it's funny though, because I mean, we do have like a couple songs that are like that, where there is like a verse, chorus, and then those songs always end up being like, the most listened to songs, man. And that kind of goes back to like I had this conversation with someone the other day about like original thought. I was like, I could give you an original thought, dude, but you wouldn't even be able to comprehend what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like people like familiarity to a certain extent. They like
Yeah.
that, it's like an anxiety comfort. And but I am like I feel like that is a part of metal is you should be trying to push being different and being, I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. I get you. I think a lot of what that pop songwriting came from, and I didn't go to school for music, so it's uh quite possibly just pulling this out of my ass. But a lot of that came from the blues, which came from spirituals. Do you know what I mean? It came from religious
Yeah.
music where there's always
Yep.
a call and response. And so I
Yep.
think it was very natural for people to hear a chorus and be like, oh, this is the part where I sing along. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's part of it. The regular like song structure I'm talking about, you know what I mean? Like I was saying, like that verse, chorus, that really comes from like tape recording back when they used to like, it's easier to just make a copy of that and kind of, I don't know. But it's a process. But it's become the standard, I guess, you know what I mean? And who knows, maybe LP3 will have one, but it's such
Oh,
it is such like a lazy way of songwriting in my opinion, but I get it. Like it's much easier to write 5 6 banging riffs and then string them together in like a 4 minute song than try to write a bunch of riffs and make them coherent in a way that people are going to actually listen to all of it. It's a
yeah.
challenge, get a listener to pay attention nowadays. You got people, if you don't keep people for 30 seconds, it's like game over, dude, and I've always went about it of like, I write music for me. I'm not really too concerned about the listener other than I'm trying to stay ahead of them, if that makes sense. Like I was saying, like I feel like we try to move on from riffs before they kind of lose that spark. We try to keep that misdirection factor in play, and that's just how we do it.
So you'll be releasing your second album called In the Jaws of Bereavement through 20 Buck Spin at the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
October. We spoke a little bit about the writing for this album. Did you go into this album wanting to do things differently from the previous album?
Kind of. I mean, I feel like a lot of our things that we've released, we've always kind of rushed stuff. You know what I mean? This is the first time I've left the studio and felt like complete. Like I felt like we did too much, and that there's actually stuff to probably cut out, which we did cut stuff out. But I feel like, yeah, just kind of as much as we tour, it's like there is this like constant writing, constant deadline of, oh, this needs to be done by this. And it sucks because there are times where it's like, I don't know, I feel like certain songs could be better if we, took a little bit more time, but then it's like, then it doesn't get released for another like 6 months or whatever. Every time you wait, things take so much longer. And we're not about being perfect. You know what I mean? We're about being Maul. And that's kind of what we always say. Like, does this sound like Maul? But this album, I guess, is different where I kind of incorporated like homages to like our older songs. So, like there's certain songs like Spontaneous, for example, that that's kind of like from Infatuation off the Monarchy EP, which we had a different guitarist back then. Jordan and I had very different like play styles when it came to metal. But I still like to do some of the little things he did just to kind of keep him alive in those riffs. You know what I mean? And he is still alive. It's not like he's dead, but like, I guess, yeah, that was one thing about this album is I took more of a little bit of like how I watch like movies. I like having like homages to different bands or different our own stuff, like for the listeners that have been with us for a long time. And just more solos in general. Like I feel like last album we didn't really have a lot of solos, so this one I definitely wrote riffs in mind for solos. Spontaneous has got 2 solos, same riff, a little slower with another solo, baby. That was a funny one at practice. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the difference. As far as like recording though, we definitely hit it the same. Like we were locked in when we went to record. We kind of knew what we were doing. We still did do a little bit of like freestyle in the studio, but for the most part, we kind of knew what everything was going to be.
Yeah. Sorry, I need to clarify one thing. As far as having 3 guitarists, are all 3 guitarists always on the records, or do you guys uh is it more of like a live situation where if someone's not available, somebody else will sub in?
Yeah, it's mainly so. I'm generally like the full time guy. I mean, I'm the OG, but it's normally, yeah, me. But I mean, yeah, if I can't make a gig, then it's generally Josh and Al, or me. Vice versa. It's me or Josh. This next tour we're doing, we're actually going to do with 3 guitarists. So it's going to be Al, myself, and a friend of ours is filling in for Josh, because Josh can get off work. But Josh is mainly like a live guitarist. He is starting to write with us now. But I would say like most of the write, I wouldn't say it's quite 50-50. It might be like 60-40, but Al and I definitely do a lot of the writing. Al more so the leads and like harmonies. I do a lot more of the meat and potatoes, if you will. But yeah, and like when we record, like this last time, I did a lot of the bass layer of guitar. You know what I mean? And it was kind of a crazy setup where I had multiple amps running into multiple cabs, and then I had like a crate solid state DI'd directly into the PC that I was really just using as like a extra overdrive. I didn't really have the distortion only real cranked up. I just kind of wanted to get it that like weird, dirty Cannibal Corpsey top end. You know what I mean?
Right.
so instead of doing like multiple tracks, like on like a left and right, I literally just recorded like one track that was 4 tracks. You know what I mean? Um, and then I just kind of hammered it out, and then we kind of went to the leads and solos after that. But
Okay. So you handled basically the rhythm tracks, and the other guys came in for their lead parts.
yeah,
Okay.
and I mean,
Uh,
I do leads as well. Like it's kind of like a collective effort, really.
okay. Would you say that the hardcore influence is more prevalent on this album?
I wouldn't say we do like any more than we normally do. Maybe like on the breakdowny side, I guess there might be a little bit more hardcore. Um, but I feel like we're still kind of like the same. We keep it kind of like a 60-40 metal hardcore. I feel like it's a little definitely leaning more metal in my opinion, but I don't know. I would say it's still pretty close to Seraphic.
Okay. More metal in the sense that uh do you feel like you guys are still kind of playing this like old school death metal with thrash influences?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely, there's that underlying. It's not quite. It's like slowed down thrash. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we're still very mid tempo when it comes to certain things. Um,
And
and
maybe
like I
that's
said, part of it. This one definitely there is moments where I feel like this album more so we definitely play around a little bit more with the like tempo mood changes where one song can start out very doomy and then end very thrashy or very vice versa, you know what I mean? um, some songs are just moody like this album more than the last one. Like we always try to make each song kind of its own identity, you know what I mean? And this one more so, like I feel like each song really does stand on its own legs.
okay. Where did you guys end up recording this album?
When or where?
Where?
We recorded at Signature Tone in with Adam Tucker, which is in Minneapolis, I believe. My St. Paul. I'm pretty sure it's in Minneapolis, but Signature Tone Recordings, um, beautiful studio. I love recording with Adam. Man, he is like a very high level wizard when it comes to metal, and he definitely like understands the vision. I love being able to work with him because it's like there was literally moments where I would be like, let's get in, and he'd be like, yeah, I know, like, like I wouldn't even have to like explain things to him. Like he knows exactly what I wanted. Um and he's so quick at like making those micro changes that I wanted. Like if like a pitch harmonic isn't Zach Wild enough, I'm like, that needs to have more flavor, brother. You know what I mean? Like we you know what I mean? uh like I said, he just definitely gets kind of like the tone, the tenacity we look for, and how we record. Like we actually don't really ride click tracks that often. Like when we record, it is very much just what Robbie's playing is what I'm kind of trying to play along to, and that's challenging, for bands. And like some producers fucking hate that, which I totally get. Like I practice doing metronome, but it's like Robbie just feels like it kind of takes away from that organic feeling. And I feel like it does, you know what I mean? I feel like that is one of those things that separates us from other bands is that we aren't chained to, the same tempo for 4 minutes or the same, you know what I mean? And we're not afraid to play around.
Yeah. I think a lot of producers get drummers to play the click track so that when it comes to cleaning stuff up, it's easier to like copy and paste a fill or
A
a
hundred
beat.
percent.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And I mean,
So
we stay pretty, even when we are like free balling it off a click, we're pretty tight. Like we practice a lot. So it's like, we know when we record, we are really trying to one take it like the old school way. And that's kind of what I feel like ends up sounding the best. There is still a bit of copy paste here and there to clean up this and that, you know what I mean? But that's just how it be.
yeah. So you worked with Adam on the EP, right? Desecration Enchantment.
Yes.
Yeah. Was that the first time you worked with him?
I think so. Yeah. Pretty sure it was. Yeah. A couple of our friends have like worked with him. I'm pretty sure I like visited his studio if I remember correctly. But I want to say that was the first thing we did record together.
Yeah. I I spoke with a few bands who worked with Adam before. I think he worked with Cavern Light, Nothingness, and Sunless, who are all
Yep.
uh,
Yep.
from the Midwest. For you
Hmm.
personally, what did you want Adam to bring to the sound of Maul, or maybe just the sound of this album?
um, with Adam, it's like I knew he was gonna be real with me when it came to if we needed a little, when some producers, man, they just hit play, or they hit record and they don't really give you no feedback. And Adam's not afraid to give you that feedback and be real with you about it. Like, oh, you could have played that a little tighter. I feel like you missed the hit on the kick right there or something like that. Or he's so polite about it though. He literally said to me the first day of recording, he's like, I might get a little persnickety with you. And I was like, bro, I want you to be persnickety, Adam. I was like, I fucking dare you, dude. um, and yeah, I don't know. I loved working with him. Like I said, he understood the assignment. You know what I mean? And a big part of that rig that we kind of made when I was recording those rhythm tracks was some of his ideas. He was like, "Hey, what if we did this cabin to this head?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes. I love this." Like, um, it was just like kids at a candy store, man. He's got a lot of toys in that studio.
Persnickety on the performance side, or more of like the technical side?
I
Because
feel
there are
like the technical side, yeah,
okay. Because there are producers like I just spoke to somebody who said that like their engineer was like their coach. Do you know what I mean? They worked with
yeah,
somebody and it wasn't just like technical feedback on tones and things like that. It was like, well, why don't you try this, or this could be a little bit
yeah,
tighter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he'd give us that too. Like I said, Adam really did feel like an extension of. He felt like another member of the band, and we also had our friend Hugh Danger that did the sample work and stuff like that. He was also in the studio with us the whole time we were recording, so we were kind of getting a head start on some of the noise samples and different things that we were going to incorporate like while we were recording.
So
Which Adam's a big nerd when it comes to like synthesizers, and he loves stuff like that. So he definitely wanted more. I wanted more, you know what I mean? But it's like, I don't know, some people are really turned off by noise. Fargo has a big noise scene, so it's like we try to incorporate that in our album because it's like I feel like we're a product of our environment here, and um, I don't know, I like having samples and unique sounds.
would you ever do a noise project?
I've thought about it. I've never really done one myself. My noise project is like when one of my pedal cables goes out.
Valid. I mean, who can tell you?
Yeah,
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 I don't think there's anything as a true noise, right? Like I think noise is noise.
yeah. Um, but I mean, if I did do a noise project, I do have. I really like doing things and like I do a little bit of noise, like just for our live performance. Actually, like in between songs, I have a looper pedal that I took Griggs's bass guitar, and then I have a Obscura delay that has a reverse effect. So I actually recorded like 2 or 3 layers with his bass reversed on that pedal, just as like our in between noise. You know what I mean? When we're doing banter, because I don't
Right,
like dead sound.
right.
So I mean, I do have like little organic noise samples for people, but which sound guys love that because it's not DI'd. It's just I'll hit it and it's my amp. So sometimes sound guys get a little. I have to tell them I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have this like quiet bassy shit coming through my amp. You know what I mean? Don't mess with my sit because some dudes will
Right.
like crank me up. Like I've had that happen where a dude thinks like something's wrong and then he'll crank me up and then we come back in and I'm just like hella loud. Like it is what it
Right,
is.
right.
But
Yeah.
things happen.
So by the time this episode airs, you guys will be finishing up a tour. Uh, do you have anything planned tour wise for after that? Either the end of the year or the beginning of next year?
Um, we do have some stuff in December cooking. I want to say it's like a I want to say the second weekend of December, so that like 12th through 14, 16 area. Not really quite sure exactly what's going down, but I know that's kind of what's next in the books as far as the on the road stuff. And then we have some stuff cooking for next year already as well.
Very cool. So by the time people hear this episode or watch it on YouTube, In the Jaws of Bereavement will be out through 20 Bucks Spin. Anthony, please tell everyone how they can order the album.
You can find the album on 20buckspin.com. You can find it on our Bandcamp, which is mall701 .bandcamp.com. I'm sure you can find it on all the major outlets like Apple Music, things like that. But yeah.
Do you want to say anything about the vinyl variants that 20 Bucks Spin created for this album?
Oh man, I love them. I really like the two-tone blue one that kind of looks like, I don't know how to explain it. It looks like water waves. There's like a cappuccino looking one I know. I really love. I love our vinyls, man. Vinyl is one of those things where it was like when we first started, we were like, we're never doing vinyl, dude, because it's like mad expensive, and it's like, I don't know. We just never really thought we were going to get to the point we even made a vinyl. So like when we got our first one, which was actually Gallery of Torment, which it was like a compilation album, I was like, hell yeah, like we did it, boys. And now here we are in like our third or fourth album or vinyl variation, basically. So that's very cool.
I just want to point out that there's one of the variants 20 Bucks Spin is describing as Grimace Purple. I love that.
Yeah.
uh, and all the merch goes to the Bandcamp page.
We do have merch on our Bandcamp page. We also have a Night Shift merch store, which is nightshiftmerch.com dash collections dash mall. There's some unique items on there, which is really cool. I actually didn't even know they had like unique shirts when we first got the Night Shift store. So I remember someone came to a show and I was like, did you make that? Like, I was so confused, dude. Yeah, some of them are really, really cool.
How does that work actually? Uh, when you hire Night Shift, do they hire their own designers to come up with designs for you?
So some of them I believe are like designs that we've already had, and then I believe there was like a few that were like, yeah, they kind of had we sent them like the album artwork basically, and we had like some other artwork that Jason had done for us. If you saw the vinyl, like there's that insert with the two heads, and one's got like laser eyes. There's some other stuff as well. So we kind of sent them all of that, and then from that, I'm pretty sure they made some shirts.
Okay. And if people want to get updates on your tours and new releases and things like that, what's the best way to follow Maul online?
Um, Gosh, best way, I guess, if you go in Google and hit Maul, you'll find us. Maul Death Metal, you'll find us. But we kind of use Instagram and Twitter more than anything, I guess. Instagram's kind of like our number one place we drop things, and then Twitter is kind of the number two. So generally, all of our stuff online is Maul 701 or Maul ND or Maul Band. I want to say our Instagram is Maul Band, or it's Maul Death actually, and then our Twitter is Maul 701. And then Facebook is Maul ND. So facebook.com/Maul ND. But yeah, we're not really great at keeping it all in one URL or whatever.
Is there anything else you want to say?
I want to thank everyone for listening to us. None of this is possible without fans, without people supporting us. Thank you to 20 Bucks Spin for everything they've done with helping get this release hyped up and getting everything sorted out, and the connections they help provide. Thanks to you to Terminal Nation. Thank you to shout out Swing Low Hardcore, Fargo Hardcore, Rip. Shout out White Earth Reservation, I guess. Thank you for having me, Adrian. I really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Anthony.